The Antikythera wreck has been at 55 meters for 2,000 years. In 1900, it killed one diver and paralyzed two others. Antikythera, 8 square miles of rock in the southern Aegean. 68 people live on it. Most maps don't bother to label it. But 2,000 years ago, every ship out of the eastern Mediterranean passed within sight of this rock, bound for Rome with a hold full of treasure. Roman luxury imports, bronze statues stripped from Greek temples, marble sculpture commissioned for villas in Pompeii and Capua, gold jewelry, glass blown in Sidon, wine and Italian amphorae stamped with the maker's name. The kind of cargo a senator would mortgage a province for. One of those ships didn't make it. Around 60 BCE, a Roman freighter loaded with all of it, and one corroded lump nobody would understand for 2,000 years, broke up on this coast. She slid down a rocky slope, came to rest 55 meters below the surface. That depth is not survivable on lung air. It's not survivable on standard dive gear without staged decompression. In 1900, decompression sickness was a rumor. The men who found this wreck didn't know it could kill them. Until it did. The man inside the suit you're looking at is Brendan Foley. The suit is a one-of-a-kind atmospheric diving system built by Phil Nuytten in Vancouver. They are about to do something the wreck has refused to allow for 125 years. Stay down long enough to actually finish it. Because what's still down there shouldn't exist. Easter, 1900. Captain Dimitrios Kondos and a crew of sponge divers from the Greek island of Simi were caught in a 4-7 storm and sheltered behind Antikythera for 6 days. They had time to kill, so they put a man in the water for sponges. Elias Stadiatos went down first. He surfaced shaking. He was babbling about a heap of dead bodies on the seafloor, horses, men, all rotting in piles. Kondos thought he was raving from the bends, so Kondos suited up and went down himself, 45 meters on a copper helmet line. He came back with a bronze arm. See, the bodies weren't people. They were statues. Kondos sailed to Athens with the arm and showed it to the Greek Ministry of Education. Within weeks, the Navy was at Antikythera. They stayed for 10 months. What they pulled up is one of the richest hauls in archaeological history. The Antikythera Youth, a life-size bronze, 4th century BCE, the masterwork of the haul. The philosopher's head, bearded, 2nd century BCE. Marble statues of Hercules, Odysseus, a discus thrower. Bronze couches, glassware. Coins from Pergamon and Ephesus, a bronze lyre. Gold rings. But the depth was eating the divers. They were wearing 1900 copper helmets, breathing surface-supplied air at 1 atmosphere absolute, descending to 55 meters, and surfacing without decompression stops. Symptoms started showing up by the 3rd week. Joint pain, paralysis, skin rashes. The bends. Nobody on the Greek Navy ship understood that the nitrogen they were breathing at depth was forming bubbles in their tissue on the way back up. One of them, Georgios Kritikos, never came up alive. 2 more were paralyzed for life. The Greek government called it off in September 1901. 5 divers were still fit to work. The rest were dead, paralyzed, or refused to go back down. They thought they had stripped the wreck. They were wrong. One of the things they hauled up looked like a rock. It went into a wooden crate. The wooden crate went into a museum basement, and nobody looked at it for 2 years. May 1902. Athens. A Greek archaeologist named Valerios Stais was cataloging the Antikythera haul when he picked up the corroded lump and turned it over in the light. The crust had cracked open. Inside it, gear teeth, Greek lettering, the shape of dials. Stais published a paper saying the lump was a clockwork mechanism. He was ignored. The mainstream view at the turn of the 20th century was that the Greeks didn't have gears. Stais's paper sat in a journal for 60 years. 60 years of darkness for the most important artifact ever pulled out of the Mediterranean. In 1971, a British physicist named Derek de Solla Price X-rayed it. The thing had 30 bronze gears, locked together in a precision train. Researchers now estimate the original had 37. The gears track the sun, the moon, eclipses on a Saros cycle of 18 years. The 5 known planets, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, moving through the zodiac. The 4-year Olympic Games cycle. The Metonic calendar of 19 years. The teeth were less than 2 millimeters wide. The handle on the side wound the date forward and backward across centuries. The thing predicted celestial events with months of accuracy. The Antikythera mechanism is the world's first analog computer. It was built around 150 to 100 BCE. It would be 1,000 years before anything mechanically comparable was built again. By anyone, anywhere. In 2021, a team at University College London ran a digital reconstruction of the front face. Cosmos. Every planet, every dial, every prediction the thing was capable of, modeled back to working order. The Greeks had built a portable model of the universe and sent it on a ship. The mechanism is one of 82 recovered fragments. The rest of it is still down here, somewhere in the rocks at 55 meters. The 1900 divers missed it. Cousteau missed it. For 100 years, the wreck refused to give up the rest of itself, until 2014. Jacques Cousteau visited the site twice. In 1953, briefly, 3 days aboard Calypso with the MIT engineer Harold Edgerton, mapping artifact concentrations. In 1976, for several weeks, with Greek archaeologist Lazaros Kolonas. The Calypso team recovered 300 more artifacts. Coins, ceramic jars, hull planks, human bone fragments, a second wreck 500 feet south. The coins were minted between 76 and 67 BCE, pinning the wrecks sinking to the early 1st century BCE. But Cousteau's divers, like the sponge divers, were limited by the bends. They worked the shallow debris field. They did not push deep. Below 60 meters, the cargo manifest was rumor. There were marble feet without bodies, bronze fragments of arms without statues. Whatever else was down there, and there was a lot, needed somebody to stay down for hours, not minutes, and come up alive. Phil Nuytten is a Canadian engineer. He has spent his life building diving suits that don't bend. His company, Nuytten Research in North Vancouver, builds atmospheric diving systems. Hard suits that hold sea-level pressure inside no matter how deep they go. In 2012, Nuytten unveiled the Exosuit. 2.5 meters tall, 530 pounds. Hard aluminium alloy shell. 18 articulated rotary joints. Rated to 1,000 feet, 300 meters. The pilot inside breathes sea-level air. There is no decompression on ascent. None. 6 to 8 hours on the bottom. 0 bends. The wreck didn't have a chance. September 2014. A Woods Hole expedition led by Brendan Foley arrived at Antikythera with the Exosuit on the deck and a Greek-American underwater archaeology team aboard. Phil Nuytten flew over from Vancouver to support the deployment in person. It was the Exosuit's first archaeological deployment anywhere in the world. They mapped the site with autonomous underwater vehicles. They built a centimeter-accurate 3-dimensional photogrammetric model of the entire debris field. They identified high-priority targets in the deeper part of the slope, where the 1900 sponge divers had refused to go and Cousteau hadn't reached. Then they went down. What Foley's team has pulled up since 2014 has rewritten the wreck. A bronze spear, 2 meters long. Lead anchor stocks. Ceramic amphorae from Italy, Rhodes, Kos. Hull planks dated by tree ring to confirm the early 1st century BCE. In 2016, they found a skeleton, 30% of a man. Skull, 2 arm bones, ribs, 2 teeth. They named him Pamphilos, a name etched on a wine cup nearby. He was the first ancient shipwreck skeleton ever recovered with viable DNA potential. 2,000 years in seawater is normally a death sentence for genetic material. But the rocky overhang where he came to rest had sealed him in sediment. The lab work is ongoing. In 2017, a bronze arm, marble feet. The arm and the feet are not from the same statue. Together, they imply at least 7 more sculptures, entire bronze and marble figures, still on the seabed. In 2024, hull timbers, the actual ribs of the ship. The wood is intact enough to identify the species, the construction technique, the joinery, and possibly the port of origin where the freighter was built. The 2025 season ran with closed-circuit rebreathers and underwater drones provided by Hublot Explorations. The University of Geneva is now led. The 5-year program runs through 2025 and beyond. The mechanism, the thing the 1900 divers nearly threw away, is in the National Archaeological Museum in Athens. 82 fragments. 30 gears recovered. The original had 37. In 1900, 55 meters killed one diver and paralyzed 2 others. In 2025, 55 meters is a workplace. The Antikythera wreck is not done. Marble statues without their bodies. Bronze arms without their statues. Coins, gold, glass. The missing 7 gears of the world's first computer, and whatever else a Roman freighter was carrying when it broke up off a storm coast. The rest of it is still down there. They're going back next season. 5,000 years before this wreck sank, an entire Bronze Age city went down off the same Greek coast. Join me to see how it happened.